This is the Dr. Katherine Albrecht Show.
Raise a signal flag on a bare hilltop. Call up an army against Babylon. Raise a signal flag on a bare hilltop. Call up an army against Babylon. Wave your hand to encourage them. Wave your hand to encourage them. As they march into the palaces of the high and mighty. I, the Lord, have dedicated these soldiers for this task. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. And they will rejoice when I am exalted.
Hello, welcome to part 2 of my show on food crimes. It's Katherine Albrecht here. So glad to have you with me. We are simultaneously broadcasting this on YouTube. So if you head on over to YouTube, you can find the Katherine Albrecht radio show there too as well. And you can actually see, hopefully I'll be able to get some of these images up here of these articles and some of the, I think, more disgusting uses or processes through which food is being prepared these days. If you were here for yesterday's program, part 1 of the show that I'm doing today was about food crimes, the modification of food to the point where it is illegal to sell American food in many other countries across Europe and England and elsewhere, because we are putting not just unhealthy things in our food. We're not just removing the germ from the wheat and the rice. We're not just refining things beyond the point of no return, but we're actually adding toxic ingredients, chemical ingredients to our food on the regular, like all the time, to pretty much everything that other countries not only don't do all the time, but they don't do it all. And in fact, they are going on raiding sprees, stopping cars and busting into convenience marts and confiscating American goods because they're full of poison, like literal poison. It's kind of like if you knew of a ring that was putting cyanide into people's food and you just went out there and busted down the doors to confiscate it. It's kind of like that. That's how they view our food, really. And it's the food we eat every day, all the time. I have become, I don't know about you after listening to my show, but after doing my show, I have become a label reader. I read all the labels all the time. And if I'm reading a label and it contains something that I know is not only not good for me, but really, really bad for me, like those gums, the guar gums and the xanthan gums and the acacia gums, and I've found so many creative different ways of packaging gums into food. I've lost track these days. But if I see a gum on there, here's what goes through my head. And if you missed the earlier shows that we did on those gums, the gums change the lining of your intestines in such a way that it breaks down the natural barrier of mucus and slime and whatever goes on in the gut, bacteria in the gut lining, to keep the bacteria from going through your gut into your body. And if you have those gums, which are used to make salad dressing a little more gelatinous, kind of like a gel-like substance, or in cheap cream cheese, I had to put back all the cheap cream cheese that was like half the price of the Philadelphia cream cheese, and because of the ingredients, because it had all these gums in it. So if it is a cheaper product and it's trying to imitate a more expensive product, or if it's a fat-free product trying to imitate a full-fat product, the chances are pretty good that the way they're going to do that is by adding these gums and thickeners and stabilizers. And when they get in the gut, they actually break down the gut lining, and they have been associated with intestinal cancers. I mean, really serious long-term problems that people are having with their gut. it is no surprise based on the fact that this is in almost every single item I pick up in the store. It's virtually impossible to avoid. It's not surprising that we have an epidemic of gastrointestinal cancers, irritable bowel syndrome, all kinds of stomach problems, digestive problems in young people in their 20s and 30s. People are getting cancer nowadays. And we are seeing not only that, but we're seeing a rise in the level of just difficulty coping from an emotional and a mental standpoint. That is the cause of, it's caused by lots of things going on in our society, the breakdown of the family, the ugly horror of stuff that is pouring into people's heads, the music, the video games, the horror movies, the TV, the everything, all the social media, all of this junk is pouring in people's heads. And at the same time, these gums, I'll just use that as one example, these gums are breaking down people's guts and destroying the microbiome in their gut, which is what produces the neurotransmitters that make your brain function properly, right? The dopamine, the serotonin, the things that keep you calm, the things that keep you energized, the things that work in your brain to make your brain function and your emotions function properly are also killed off. They are not... we now know that you have a second brain, I suppose, which is your digestive system, and all of those neurotransmitters, the chemicals in your brain that help you to think properly and have regulated emotions and deal with life. Those are all created by the microbes in the microbiome in your gut, breaking down your food and converting that food and producing all of those neurotransmitters that then go from your gut straight up to your brain. And so if we're killing those things off, if we're destroying the linings of our intestines, then we are giving ourselves a double, triple, quadruple whammy of difficult things in society, difficult things in our body's functioning and our well-being and our health and our just overall ability to physically cope. And at the same time, we're breaking down our ability to emotionally and mentally cope with things that are already hard. So you put it all together and you're like, what are we doing? What are we doing? All right, I want to talk about, I started to talk about this yesterday. I want to bring it up today. Why is bleached flour banned in the UK? Bleached flour banned in the UK. Bleached flour is white flour. Now, what's white flour? White flour is wheat that has had the wheat germ stripped away from it. Now, if you think about a seed, what a seed has it has a tiny little germ, which is the DNA. That's the instruction set to help that seed or that grain turn into a plant. And the other part that's attached to it, the starchy part, which we consider, which is the only part we really eat when we're eating white flour, that starchy part is just the nutrition. It's the food provided to the living part of the grain, which in this case would be a grain of wheat. It's got its germ, which is all of the nutrients, all the vitamins, all the instructions, all the DNA is all concentrated, and it's typically at the tip. You can think about this, you can see this on a piece of brown rice. You'll have the bran on the outside, that's the fiber. If you strip that away, you can see that there's just a bunch of starch. On a piece of white rice, you'll see the starch, and then down at the bottom in that little tip is the germ. And germ is the living part. What does the word germ mean? I'm going to look that up. The original meaning of the word germ. The germ of an idea. Something germinates, it comes to life. Okay, let me look up etymology of the word germ. All right, let me tell you exactly. All right, in the early stages of development, modern Latin, from modern Latin germinalis, in the germ, or germen, meaning a sprout, a bud, a sprig, or an offshoot. So we think of germs as being microbes that, those tiny little things that you don't want to cough on or sneeze on somebody or you'll get germs on them. But the word germ actually means the genesis or the beginning of life, the thing that comes to life. So the medical, the medical definition, of course, is a germ, like a pathogen. Germ is a deceptively simple word that comes from us from the Latin germen, meaning a sprout, bud, or offshoot. In all of its meanings, hang on, I just clicked it and now it's going away. In all of its meanings, the term germ relates to the idea of developing into something more mature. Okay, so when you remove the germ from the wheat, that's what you have to do to get white flour. You have to remove the germ to get white rice. You have to remove the germ to get really any of our refined grains. You have to remove the germ. The germ contains oils that go rancid. There's a reason why you can't keep nuts, for example, in your pantry for 5 years, because when you open them, they'll stink. They'll stink because they get a bacteria in them that causes rancidity. If you are able to remove the oil entirely, which you do in the case of white rice or white flour, then it doesn't go rancid. Keeps forever. Yeah, that's one of the reasons they do it. They take the germ out. All right, stay tuned. I'm Katherine Albrecht. I'll be back with more on food right after this.
Why are most email programs free? Companies use them as bait to lure people into their system so they can scan their data and sell them to advertisers. It's like a hotel giving out free rooms so they can film people sleeping and then sell the video. You'd never agree to that. StartMail restores your privacy. No one but you sees your sensitive data, and it costs less than a postage stamp a week. StartMail.com. It's email you can trust. Your email is your business, but if it's spied on, hacked, or intercepted, it can fall into the wrong hands. The solution is encryption, a high-tech way to scramble your data so no one can read it. For years, only the technical elite could use this powerful tool until StartMail came along. StartMail not only lets you encrypt the email you send, it encrypts your entire account. Encryption. It's just one more way StartMail.com keeps you safe.
Hi.
I saw a huge crowd, too huge to count. Everyone was there. All nations and tribes, all races and languages, and they were standing dressed in white robes, dressed in white robes, and waving palm branches, standing before the throne and the Lamb, heartily singing. Salvation to our God on His throne, salvation to the Lamb, to the Lamb. Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. Lord will keep your going out and your coming in. Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. Lord will keep your going out and your coming in.
All right, I'm back.
Lord will keep you from all evil.
Okay. I have a lot to talk about. I have like 30 different articles up here. I'm going to try to get through as many of them as I can. But in speaking about how we ultra-process food, how we refine food, the notion of refining food means, in most cases, removing all the nutrition. If you take the germ out, you are taking out well, first of all, you take the fiber out by removing the husk. That is how white rice is different from brown rice. If you've ever eaten one or the other, you know white rice cooks a lot faster than brown rice. It'll cook in, 20 minutes versus like 45 minutes. So the brown rice has that bran on the outside of it. It's a little chewier, right? And it also keeps you regular. The fiber that you're eating goes through your body and kind of bulks up and sort of scrapes the stuff off the edge of your intestines and keeps everything moving and bulked up, whereas the white rice just becomes a paste, just a pasty paste going through there. The brown rice has the nutrition, the germ, the oils, the fats, the wheat bran. Hang on, let me get the wheat germ. Wheat germ. My mom in the 1970s was a big health food advocate, and she used to buy jars of Kretschmer's wheat germ. I think you can still buy them. And it is the germ that they've removed from the wheat to make it into refined white flour, and they put it in a jar. And she would take it, a spoonful of it, and just sprinkle it on things. She would sprinkle it on a salad. She would sprinkle it into pancakes and make the pancakes up with it. So it's a way, if you're using white flour that has had the germ removed, it's a way to kind of put it back with that the wheat germ in there. You have to keep it in your fridge. We always kept ours in the door of the fridge, because if you leave it out, what's going to happen to it? It'll turn rancid. It'll spoil, which is the reason why they removed it from the flour in the first place. So wheat germ is high in fiber. I think they incorporate some of the fiber and also the germ from in there. And it's also very high in vitamin E. So it has a lot of nutrition that is just stripped away and is not present in the white flour. Now, let me say something more about white flour. Yesterday, I talked about the difference between something that is not healthy for you and something that is poisonous for you, and they're different. White flour that has had the germ and the fiber or the outer husk removed is not particularly healthy. It's kind of unhealthy because it doesn't really have anything good for you in there. And the other thing that removing the fiber and all of that nutritional content does is it causes it to have a much worse glycemic index, which means when you eat it, you might as well just be eating, I don't know, if you eat the equivalent of 5 tablespoons of white flour, you might as well be eating the equivalent pretty close to like 3 or 4 tablespoons of white sugar, just sugar. It converts quickly into glucose in the bloodstream because there's nothing to slow it down. So having the bran in there, having the whole wheat component to it, means it slows down its conversion into glucose in the body. That's better for your pancreas. It keeps you from getting that sort of spike of energy and then that crash of exhaustion afterwards. That is all based on the amount of sugar in your bloodstream, the amount, what your pancreas is doing, all of that stuff that we don't really think about. We're just like, oh, it's a cookie. But your body is like, hang on a minute. This is doing a lot of things to me. And one of the reasons we have such a high rate of diabetes in our country is because people are eating the equivalent of just cups and cups of sugar a day in the form of white flour, in the form of other, even white rice, potatoes, anything that does not have a lot of fiber or a lot of nutritional content. Potatoes a little bit better, but white flour is pretty much the worst after white sugar. So I have a couple of articles up here. Let me get back to the one I want to show you on flour. So it's not good for you to, it's basically nutritionally, it's ultra processed, it's nutritionally useless, and it spikes your blood sugar and contributes to pre-diabetic conditions to eat a lot of white flour. There's really nothing in it. It's not super good for you. It's not going to keep you regular. You probably get constipated if you eat too much of it and you don't have fiber to go along with it. Now, there's a difference, though, between not very good for you, has no nutritional value, and is just kind of a bunch of pasty, sugary sludge versus something that actually contains a toxin. And so now let me read you about that, because that's what Britain, Great Britain, and all across Europe, that's the reason why they're confiscating American products made with flour, because it's not just the lack of nutritional content. They have that too. They eat white bread too. But it's the additional things that we're adding in the U.S. that makes it toxic. So here we go. Bleached flour is white flour that has been whitened and softened by adding a chemical bleach. Usually that is a chlorine. I mean, literally like bleach in your sheets, bleach. Or a bromate, or a peroxide similar to hair bleach or a cleaning bleach. The bleach makes the flour whiter and softer. Over several months, oxygen in the air will also whiten flour, which is why flour labeled unbleached is also white. It is just stored a few months longer in a dry place instead of being mixed with actual bleach. Unbleached flour tends to be more expensive because adding chemicals is cheaper than finding warehouses to let the bleach sit, or the flour sit safely while it turns white. All right, Bleach also breaks down gluten, so unbleached flour is not as soft as bleached flour. Some people actually microwave unbleached flour to destroy the gluten for extra fluffy sponge cakes or gooey sugar cakes, anything you don't want to have be chewy at all, but for most baking, it doesn't really matter. The European Union publishes a list of which chemicals are considered safe, which chemicals are allowed in food, and they're very strict about it. None of these bleaches are on the list of permitted food additives in the EU. Anything with bleach in it can actually not even be sold within the European Union or in the UK. All right, so now I'm going to read about the particular nasty ingredient. I was reading this yesterday. Let me see if I can find my window. This is the one I was struggling to pronounce yesterday. Hang on. Hang on, I'll find it. And then I also have some research on fast food, which I did after the show yesterday and left me kind of horrified. I already knew fast food wasn't good for you, but if you want to talk about these chemicals are in our fast food is just packed to the gills with them, because who's reading the ingredients on a fast food label? They don't give you your Big Mac with an ingredient label. If they did, people probably wouldn't eat them. There's a lot of food in the supermarket that has so many bad ingredients that anyone who glances at the label, unless they just don't care, is probably likely to put it back. The fast food is even worse. All right, let me see. White flour. I want to give you the name of this additive. I was struggling so much to pronounce it yesterday. Here we go. Azodi, A-Z-O-D-I, carbonamide. Azoni bicarbonamide. I can't do it. Azodi carbonamide. There we go. As a food additive. All right, let me look this thing up. So this is a yellow crystalline chemical that was at the turn of the century, when they were, didn't really understand about chemicals. People were getting asthma because of being in an environment where this chemical was present. It's very bad for people. It is a chemical compound with a complicated molecular formula. It's yellow to orange red, odorless crystalline powder, sometimes called the yoga mat chemical because of its widespread use in foam mats. And we put it into our flour, and it's bad for you. All right, I'm gonna go to Wikipedia. I'm gonna read you the Wikipedia here. All right, so it is prepared in 2 steps via treatment of urea with hydrazine to form something called biurea, and the urea in it is known to cause cancer. Food additive. As a food additive, azote carbonamide is used as a flour bleaching agent and a dough conditioner in some countries such as the US and Canada, but not in the European Union where it is banned. It reacts with moist flour as an oxidizing agent and produces biurea. Secondary production produces semi-carbazide aminourea and ethyl carbamate urethane. You heard that right, urethane, like polyurethane, urethane. Many restaurants in the U.S. fast food industry removed it from foodstuffs in response to negative publicity. Subway was among the various restaurants that removed this. Back in 2014, I think I said it was Food Babe, the online influencer, did a whole campaign against this, and a lot of fast food restaurants removed it. Now, this is one thing that somebody spoke out against and got enough action on. I have gone through, and I recommend that you do this. Go through, pick your favorite fast food, go through the list of ingredients in that fast food, and you will find that it is a laundry list. You can't pronounce them. The list goes on and on and on. The number of actual things you can pronounce and buy and eat, and you know what they are, is about this big, and the list of other stuff is about this big. Most of it is forbidden or banned in other countries. One of the ones that stuck in my mind was the anti-foaming agent that they put into oil. So when you're making French fries, if you've ever used a deep fryer, they foam. It foams. When you put something into oil, the starches in there form foam. And there's an anti-foaming agent in there that's also been known to cause cancer in laboratory animals that is not allowed in any other country but the U.S. And yet, if you have a fried food from a fast food restaurant, there is probably a 9 out of 10 chance. I mean, I didn't see any that didn't use it, but there's a very good chance that that anti-foaming agent is in there alongside the foaming agents, right? This, the one that blows bubbles. This is the, I'll read you this. An example of the use of zodicarbonamide, zodicarbonamide, as a blowing agent is found in the manufacture of vinyl foams, where it forms bubbles on breaking down into gas at high temperature. Vinyl foam is springy and does not slip on smooth surfaces, so it's useful for carpet underlay and floor mats. Commercial yoga mats made of vinyl foam have been available since the 1980s. The first mats were cut from carpet underlay. And as a food additive, it does the same thing, right? Don't you want your bread to rise and be full of lots of bubbles? Well, why not use yoga mat chemicals like urethane in order to get that nice bubbly texture? Because you like nice fluffy foam rubber. How about nice fluffy bread? And that's literally why they use it. So the question, I suppose, is who thought it was a good idea to take a yoga mat chemical, to take a foaming agent for vinyl, and say, well, if it foams vinyl, it would foam flour too. Let's throw it into the bread. That's the kind of thing that I could see maybe happening if you know Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, which was about the horrors of like the 20s, 30s food processing, back when they were doing awful, awful things in processing meat. And it got a lot of that book, The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, caused a whole reform movement to happen across the meat industry and the packaging industry. Why do we not have something like that today? I wish Upton Sinclair were around today writing something about this stuff. It's up. There we go. Got an ad.
If you keep using Yahoo.
You consent to sharing all data in your email account with our AI providers, and you grant us a perpetual license to use, display, publish, and publicly distribute your content in any media known now or in the future, and to let other users access and distribute it as well.
Yikes! It's time to switch to StartMail, the only email that's AI-free and private by design. StartMail.com. Use promo code JD.
The real cost of the state is the prosperity we do not see, the jobs that don't exist, the technologies to which we do not have access, the businesses that do not come into existence, and the bright future that is stolen from us. The state has looted us just as surely as a robber who enters our home at night and steals all that we love. Frederick Bastiat.
Hi, this is Ron Tafoya, owner and operator of New Method Cleaners, Northern Colorado's oldest dry cleaners. Men's clothing to women's fashions, we clean it all. Give us a call with all your cleaning questions. If we don't clean it, we might have a solution. We have 2 locations to serve you in Severance and Fort Collins. Please call us at 970-775-0623. 970-775-0623.
The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. Edward Bernays, Propaganda, 1928.
Most people think they can't afford to invest in gold.
I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. I knew you. I knew you before I formed you.
All right, I'm going to jump back in here. Got to get through some of these articles. I got so many. So let me talk for a minute about fast food. If I can find my link. I can find my window here. Fast food intake among children and adolescents. Now, I talked to you guys a couple weeks ago, about what is known as a scientific research cohort. And what that is a group of people. My mother was one of them, is part of one of these many, many studies. It's a group of people who sign up to be studied, and they fill out detailed questionnaires. Sometimes they go in for blood tests and physicals, and they're followed throughout their lifespan. It's a longitudinal study. So longitudinal means over time, right? So a longitudinal study means you're looking at a cohort or a group of people that are all part of the same group, and you follow them year after year throughout their life. So one of these cohorts that has been pretty well studied is one of kids who were kindergartners. When were they kindergartners? Born in 2001, followed from birth through kindergarten entry, and then they were followed through the 8th grade. All right, now this particular study, this is called the ECLS cohort, and there's the ECLSK for kindergarten cohort. Now, what does that stand for? Early Childhood Longitudinal Studies Program. Now, 22,000 kids are in this particular cohort. And as I mentioned on the previous show, the research from these kids, and obviously their parents are filling it out up until a certain point, the research from that data set is not, nobody's looking at all of it, but it can be used by researchers. They petition or they request to get a copy of this. They show that they're doing legitimate research. It's all anonymized. They don't get anybody's names or any personal information, but they can get the raw data. And what social scientists do is they take the raw data and then they do various tests on it, and they try to find out. For example, you could take the raw data and you could say, of these 22,000 children, how many children within the last year, their parents get divorced? All right, so that's a statistic. You can then take that particular group and you can compare them to the ones whose parents are still married, and you could look at various outcomes. You could look at school performance. You could look at overall health. You could look at rates of asthma. You could look at a whole ton of things, performance in mathematics, the socioeconomic, like the income of their families, the nutritional status, their weight compared to normal for their age. So you can find various things. And now let's say that we found that children whose parents had gotten divorced within the last year tended on average to be to perform more poorly in math than other children. Let's just say that we found that. Then what social scientists do is they, quote, control for other factors. Because you could say, well, hang on a minute, doing poorly in math, well, maybe because they got divorced, they moved and changed schools. That would affect your math performance. That would affect your grades if you moved. Or maybe because of, and you could look at these other sorts of things. And so when you're doing this research as a social scientist, this was what I was trained to do in getting my doctorate, is you're trained for the statistical methods for, quote unquote, controlling for these other variables. So another variable would be, did they move or not? And so you can control for that. You can say, well, yes, a bunch of them moved, a bunch of them didn't, but let's remove the impact of the moving. You could say, did they, did they speak English? You could remove the impact of speaking English. You could remove the impact of these various things. And if you're doing a really good job, you control for as much as you can possibly control for to try to get down to the very nitty-gritty of the direct relationship between the two things that you're looking at. So we've talked about this before. If you have a, let's say you want to say, when people eat a lot of junk food, well, I'm not going to say it this way. We see a surprising correlation between eating junk food and depression. And we see a surprising correlation between not eating junk food and not having depression. What can we conclude from that? Well, we could, hypothetically, so we make a hypothesis and we say, well, maybe eating junk food makes people depressed. Or maybe being depressed causes people to not have the energy to cook. And when they don't have the energy to cook, but they're still hungry, they got to eat something, they're probably just going to drive through Taco Bell and get something quick. And that's maybe not very good for them, but they're too depressed to care. Okay. You don't know which direction the connection is going. Or you could say, well, maybe people who are eating junk food and depressed are living in very poor communities, and they don't have the money or the skill set or the supermarket. Maybe they're in a food desert. A food desert is where you just don't have a grocery store with any fresh produce, with any fresh food at all. So could it be that if you're living in a food desert, it's because you're living in a lower income, troubled community to begin with, where you don't even have the choice of not eating fast food because what else is there available to you? And the overarching issue of your really not very good community is causing both the junk food eating or the fast food eating and the depression. You don't know. So as a social science researcher, when you see these correlations, they're not necessarily, they always say correlation does not indicate causation or does not imply causation. You don't know whether the fast food's causing the depression, the other way around, something else is causing both. You don't know. And so this is why there are actual methods that you can use in social science with these huge data sets where you can actually control for and manipulate the data and start removing those other components. So for example, if you want to know if fast food and depression go together, even if the households have a lot of money and live in really safe communities where the other factors in their community are really positive. Like it's not the community making them depressed and eat the junk food. So you can control for that. You can control for the income level of the neighborhood. You can control for the crime rates in the neighborhood. You can control for all of these other factors. So you eliminate the impact of the community. Now, sometimes when you control for that, you're like, I'm going to control for the community. And then you see that no longer does the depression and the fast food consumption even go together at all. And then you're like, so that was an artifact of the type of community they were living in. So when you control for various things, you get a very fine-tuned way of looking at how things connect and fit together. Now, I mention this because I'm going to be talking, and I talk a lot about social science research on this program. And as someone who's been trained to do that research, I need to explain how it is that we can draw the conclusions that we draw and how it is that we cannot draw other conclusions that people all the time want to be drawing, right? Fast food makes you depressed. Okay. Now, with that said, I want to go back to this ECLS, this cohort, this longitudinal cohort, the Early Childhood Longitudinal Studies cohort. I am on the website of National Center for Education Statistics. There is such a thing. .ed.gov. So nces.ed.gov/ECLS, the Early Childhood Longitudinal Studies Program. Okay. The Early Childhood Longitudinal Studies Program provides important information about children's knowledge, skills, and development from birth through elementary school for more than 20 years, because these guys were born in 2001. This program has helped educators, families, researchers, and policymakers improve children's educational experiences. It includes 4 longitudinal studies examining child development, school readiness, and early school experiences. Born in 2001, followed from birth through kindergarten, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it's conducted by the U.S. Department of Education. This is where some of our taxpayer money goes. It goes to fund this kind of research. The National Center for Educational Statistics within the U.S. Department of Education's Department of Education Science. I mean, there's bunches of people who just do this. They just collect data and they try to understand it, make sense of it, and then publish it in order, hopefully, to inform public policy decisions that change things. Now, what puzzles me, and I'm about to share with you something about fast food and kids' development that's disturbing. What puzzles me is we've got all these social scientists, and they're reaching all these conclusions on the basis of some pretty robust data. 22,000 people, 22,000 kids, that's a big sample size, and you can be it's pretty reliable. Your level of certainty about the findings that you got when the size is really big is very strong. If you only looked at 5 kids, that's hardly anybody. Who knows? Could just be 5 weird kids. I don't know. But when you're looking at 22,000 kids, you can pretty much take it to the bank that what you're seeing is legit. So now I'm going to read you this study. And with that whole entire background, I want you to ask yourself, we can ask each other, why is nobody doing anything about this? Why are we allowing our kids to just be harmed in these ways. All right, so where's my study here? All right, here it is. Fast food consumption and academic growth in late childhood. Now, late childhood, they consider like middle school and high school. All right, this came out a while ago, 2014. So this has been out a long time, okay? Haven't done a darn thing with it. The objective of this study is to examine the associations between fast food consumption and the academic performance of 8,500 fifth grade kids in reading, math, and science. Okay. The study did directly assess academic achievement and fast food consumption between kindergarten and 8th grade. And here's what they found. Okay. Now, 2014, more than 2/3 of the sample reported consuming fast food. 20% reported consuming at least 4 full meals of fast food in the last week. Fast food consumption in 5th grade predicted lower levels of academic achievement in all 3 subjects in 8th grade, even when 5th grade academic scores and other variables were controlled for. Okay, I'll tell you what that means in a minute. I'll be right back.
I've been hearing a lot about the LifeWave patches, and they sound amazing. And I'm thinking I want to try them for myself. But can you tell me how they work?
You wear the patch, which is about the size of a quarter, 12 hours a day, 12 on, 12 off. And the patch uses your body's own light and energy and copper peptides to reactivate the dormant stem cells in your body. Once a stem cell has been reactivated, it can be used by any of the cells in your body that need it, creating a healing and growth process you haven't experienced since your youth. So in a nutshell, this is how the LifeWave X39 patch works.
You can purchase the LifeWave patches by going to americasfreedomnetwork.com. Then click on the Natural Health Products button at the top of the page. That's americasfreedomnetwork.com.
Look, this product works, and you've got nothing to lose because there's a 100% money-back guarantee.
That's americasfreedomnetwork.com. Thank you.
Hi, this is Rod from PCs and Parts. We are located in Loveland at the Orchard Shopping Center. I just wanted to let you know, not only do we fix and repair and build computers, we also have a great lineup of security camera systems. In today's world, we need every advantage we can get when it comes to security. Call us at 970-203-0696 or find us at PCsandParts.com. That's 970-203-0696 or PCsandParts.com.
Hello, KHNC listeners. This is Mad Vax from the Mad Vax and Rev Show, letting you know that you can catch our show Mondays at 4 p.m. here on AM 1360. That's the Mad Vax and Rev Show, Mondays at 4 p.m. Check it out.
Want to learn more about LifeWave? Go to LifeWave School in 9 minutes. Go to 1360khnc.com and click on the podcast button. Go to LifeWave School in 9 minutes. Go to 1360khnc.com and click on the podcast button.
Listen very carefully. If you are not listening to Swamp Fight, you are simply not listening. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. right here on AM 1360, the roar of the Rockies.
Want to comment on today's subject? You can. Call or text Katherine right now at 877-536-1360. That's 877-536-1360.
Night watchman, how long till daybreak? Night watchman, how long till daybreak? How long will this night last? How long will this night last? Morning's coming, morning's coming, but for now, it's still night.
Okay, let me jump in here. before I read you the results of that finding from that longitudinal group and explain to you how they did the controls and got the findings that they got, I first want to share with you, this is from the Milken Institute School of Public Health at George Washington University. And the title of this particular page is The Dangerous Chemicals Found in Fast Foods and Restaurants. Now, it's not only the chemicals in the food itself, it's also the chemicals in the packaging. And fast food packaging has been found to contain some of the highest levels of toxins that leach into our food of pretty much any other source of toxins in our diet. So when in a minute, we're going to dive into the results of the academic performance of the kids eating fast food. A big part of that is actually just the wrappers, just the packaging itself. All right. 2 years ago, Ami Zota studied fast food consumption in the U.S. and found that as millions of people are eating fast food outside their homes, they're also ingesting harmful chemicals. Okay. The first class of chemicals we're going to look at are called phthalates, P-H-T-H, phthalates. This class of chemicals is linked to, are you ready? Infertility, complications in pregnancy, birth defects, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. They're found in plastics, lotions, cosmetics, personal care products, vinyl flooring, and other common household items, but they're also found in the gloves, the boxes, and the plastic wrap used to prepare food. Right. The phthalates, and we need to do probably just a show on those. There's a reason why I do not put any lotion on my body. I just don't, because it's full of this garbage. There's a reason why I use bar soap. I use just plain old Dove soap and unscented, even unscented Ivory. There's a reason for that, because those soaps, those sodium lauryl sulfate based body washes that you can buy, look at the ingredients. They're full of sulfates. They're full of bad things. And they're full of phthalates. Now, the phthalates especially are in the lotion, so I don't put any lotion on my body. I just don't do it. At one time, when I was having an issue with dry skin, and I don't really have an issue with dry skin, so if I did, I would probably use castor oil or coconut oil or something natural. But at one point, I did go into Whole Foods and I bought a lotion by Aubrey Organics. I don't even think they're around anymore. I think they shut down. But they do have, if you go into Whole Foods, it's expensive. I mean, you'll pay like $15 for a little thing of lotion. But if it's not something you're using on a regular basis, probably a good idea. Get some and just, put it on your hands, but don't use the bad stuff containing all the phthalates. 2016 study found that those who reported eating more fast food were exposed to 40% more phthalates than those who ate at home. How did they test them? This blew my mind. They tested them within 24 hours of eating the food. So I said this earlier, it's one thing to eat unhealthy food and over time your body kind of just isn't getting what it needs and it breaks down. It's another thing to eat something that's actually poisonous that you can measure bodily impacts within hours of eating it. Okay. Grain-based foods, including bread, cake, pizza, burritos, rice and noodles, and burgers and other meat were the most significant contributors to phthalate exposure. Grain-based foods and greasy meat things. Yesterday, a friend of mine and I were out, and she bought me a Subway sandwich. And we wound up not eating the Subway sandwiches. I brought it home. I had it after the show. And as I got it out, I had just researched this, I can't say it, that awful yellow crystalline thing they put into bread, and had just discovered that, hey, Subway wasn't using that. Good. All right, I can eat this Subway sandwich. And then I went to get it. We had gotten it earlier in the day. It was in my little studio fridge. I pulled it out. And the paper, the Subway paper that they wrap it in, had disintegrated. And it was like a wet Kleenex all over my sandwich. And I was picking it off and I was thinking, I could remove this, but what chemicals were in that paper and are now on this bread? And should I really even eat this? Okay. These are the kinds of decisions I am making all day long, every day. I look at it, I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. Do I eat this? It has a little bit of that. It has some of that. It has this. What are we going to do? All right, let me continue reading. And by the way, I did eat it. I'm sure if they had tested me within 24 hours, you would have found that I probably ate something I shouldn't have. But I don't buy that stuff. I do my best to avoid it, but yesterday I was starving. Okay. According to an assistant professor in environmental and occupational health at Georgetown University, these findings were especially worrisome because of the number of serious health concerns associated with exposure to phthalates. Phthalate levels in people's bodies 35% higher for people in all age groups who eat more food away from home. Now, that can even be in a restaurant. That could be Denny's. That could be, I don't know, Olive Garden, whatever. 55% higher for adolescents who were high consumers of food away from home, and 30% higher for all age groups who ate meat sandwiches away from home. I used to think that one of the healthiest things I could get when I was out was turkey lunch meat. In fact, sometimes I would just go into the supermarket and just buy some turkey lunch meat and have that for lunch. And I'm now realizing that is one of the most unhealthy things I could have been doing. So I don't do that anymore. All right, so there's a whole study here. I'm going to post, this is from Online Public Health. I'm posting it in my chat room right now. Now let me get back to the study on the kids, and this one boggled my mind. Let's see. And I got a bunch of studies on the packaging and a bunch of studies on all this stuff. Where'd it go? I'll get to it. Here it is. Okay, fast food consumption. Now, this is this group of, they took the fifth graders, I think there was 8,500 of them from this longitudinal cohort study. And here's what they found. Initial evidence that high levels of fast food consumption predict slower academic growth and academic skills in a nationally representative sample of children. Okay, now your first thought might be, and this is why I went into the control and all of the statistical manipulation, your first thought might be, yeah, well, who knows if that's really causing it? But they controlled for all of these other things, and they found that this was the one thing that remained very strong as a predictor. Fast food is a broad category of food purchased outside the home. It includes common restaurants like McDonald's, Burger King, and Taco Bell, Kentucky Fried Chicken, etc. It has long been considered unhealthy, but recent research is documenting specific harmful characteristics of fast food. Looking at 5 chains, etc., kids' meals, horrible, horrible stuff. Okay, now let me get you to the findings of this current study. So awful. All right, so we used data from the Early Childhood Longitudinal Study Kindergarten Cohort, the ECLSK, a nationally representative study. Our sample consisted of 11,740 children, 51% male, 43% white, 11% black, 19% Hispanic, 7% Asian, 6% other race or ethnicity. They were assessed in reading, literacy, mathematics, and science, both in the 5th and 8th grades. We used all this technical stuff. Children reported their fast food consumption the week before the study as part of a questionnaire. Technical. They were asked this question. In the past 7 days, how many times did you eat a meal or a snack from a fast food restaurant like McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Burger King, Taco Bell, Wendy's, and so on? Okay. They could answer 7 different things. Didn't eat it at all, ate it every day, eat it sometimes. They had all these different choices. And now, hang on. They looked at their other consumption of fruits and vegetables, milk, juice, soda, sugary beverages, etc., etc. They looked at their socioeconomic characteristics, household income, combined parents' highest education, household food insecurity, whether or not their mothers were working, all these different things that they controlled for. Now, here's what they found. Fast food consumption was very high in this nationally representative sample. In other words, our kids eat a lot of fast food, right? A lot of fast food. As hypothesized, children who reported eating it daily experienced the slowest growth in their academic achievement across all 3 academic subjects. Children who ate it daily gained fewer points in reading compared to their peers, fewer points in math, fewer points in, what was our other one? Here. Children who reported consuming fast food 1 to 3 times in the last week, 4 to 6 times in the last week, or every day in the last week, all experienced significantly smaller gains than kids who did not eat fast food. Now, the kids who ate it 4 to 6 times a week, that's the highest level, had the lowest test scores of everybody. This stuff isn't just making us sick. It's not just keeping us from thriving. It's not just keeping us from being healthy. It's making us dumb. It's making us stupid and depressed. and it's ruining our brains and our bodies and giving us cancer. This was known in 2014. Have you ever heard this study? I never heard of it. Is there any kind of a recommendation kids should really not eat fast food, period? No. We ban certain things. Kids can't smoke cigarettes, but they can certainly eat fast food. Yeah, we need to change this. All right, Katherine Albrecht here. Thank you so much for being with me this hour. I had so much to get to, but I just had to explain all the science because it's going to be relevant as we talk more about this stuff. All right. Thanks for joining me. All right. Many blessings. Eat healthy, and I will see you guys tomorrow. All right.